There we go. Okay. Hello and welcome back to Script Doctors, the monthly podcast where we take a look at the disease that is Hollywood and try to resuscitate it or save it as best we can. With me, I have my co-host Martin, and I'm Tobias, of course. And this episode, we have a very special guest all the way from the UK. We have Ryan.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How did you come about to become a guest on this show?
So I am a blogger from a blogging website called The Life of Films. You can come over at livefilms.com, and I run a Twitter account off the back of that. And after kind of just having a few conversations about The Last Jedi, I encountered these guys, and they asked if I wanted to do a guest spot, and I always take the opportunity to moan about The Last Jedi wherever I can. So,
me too.
So I happily accepted their invitation, and here we are.
Yeah.
That's
it's very exciting. It's our first guest. Well, it's our third episode. So, but so what is your thoughts on The Last Jedi in general? What do you think about it?
So yeah, I dislike it insanely a lot. I was never a fan of The Force Awakens, but I actually kind of have a little bit more enjoyment for that film off the back of the last Jedi. It's for me, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and any of your listeners, don't shoot me, but I also enjoy the prequels, so I'm a big fan of all 6 of the films, and I feel like these films for me, especially The Last Jedi, just aren't Star Wars for me. They don't have the feel of Star Wars, and I feel their agenda is completely different to what George Lucas wanted to portray within these films. So yeah, that's mine. What about you guys?
Well, I'm leaning towards your side of the argument. I don't hate the movie, but I do disagree with a lot of the choices being made with the new characters and the new stories, especially in The Last Jedi. I wasn't a super big fan of The Force Awakens, but like you, I did like it more. I mean, it was basically it was a retread of A New Hope, more or less, which makes sense. You know, if you want to ease the new fans into an existing universe like they did. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy much of The Last Jedi. What about you, Martin?
I actually liked The Last Jedi. It's not without problems. It has a couple of huge problems.
But what sort of problems? What problems?
Like the pacing is off for one. The whole the whole roundabout plot with Finn and Rose going to
Canto Bight, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And ending up nowhere, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the characters, like what's his name? Del Toro, the DJ character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even. Oh, that's his name. Okay, I didn't even remember his name.
A couple of those things, but some of the things that I really liked about the movie was I actually liked the portrayal of Luke Skywalker, like a grumpy old man, and I really loved the scenes with Rey and Kylo.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing I really like about the movie. I thought the scenes between Rey and Kylo Ren were pretty good. They were starting to go in an interesting direction with them two sort of teaming up. I wasn't a big fan of that fight though, but just the notion of them two teaming up was kind of cool. But like we know now, they ruined that. Now it's all just back to it's the good guys and the bad guys. So
yeah, I think they should have teamed up.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
I agree.
I mean, like from a logical standpoint, if you're going to make another movie, I'm not sure how they would have proceeded with that. But in that moment, when you're watching it, you just wanted them to like team up. That would have been super cool.
Well, yeah, I think it would have been good if they'd teamed up, and then maybe Luke hadn't. Spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen the film, but I hope you have.
Yeah.
Luke hadn't died, and then maybe he could have maybe redeemed himself after what he did with Kylo Ren to maybe bring Rey back in the third one, to the light side maybe, and kind of, and then it would have given the ability to be able to maybe show off how powerful he actually was, where you have kind of 2 amateur Jedis versus 1 master Jedi, and give him that opportunity to kind of, do you know what I mean? And maybe he could have sacrificed himself to bring Rey back to the light. Do you know what I mean? Maybe something like that, make his death a little bit more meaningful. And therefore then she could have then taken on the new Rian Johnson trilogy and just make it a little bit more meaningful in regards to what happened. Because that's one of the big gripes for me, is how they handled Luke personally. And I felt I was very, very let down. He's one of my favorite characters of all time, not just in Star Wars. I grew up watching him, and for me, he was one of the epitomes of a hero. He got loads of stuff wrong all the time. He never got anything right, but he always wanted to do the right thing, and he would always try and do it. And I feel like this new film, it was the exact opposite. Like he didn't want to do the right thing. He didn't care about doing the right thing. And for me, it's just Luke had gone through so many trials in the first 3 films that shown us that he's strong enough to come through the end of come through everything. And then this happened, and it was just a little bit like it didn't really make sense for the character. No,
I was gonna agree, because I can accept a more like grumpy and downtrodden Luke, but there was never any build up to that. I mean, the last time we saw him was in Return of the Jedi. Everyone was happy, everything was good. He had gone through all these trials, but he had come out on the right side of it. So to see him the next time we see him, he is this hermit who just hates the Force. Like, we can understand if we had seen the journey from him being this Jedi to what he was in The Last Jedi, but we never saw that. We were just supposed to accept it, that he would just, at the first sight of trouble with Kylo Ren, he would just like, no, I'm gonna kill him. Oh, it didn't work. Now the Force is terrible.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. They could have maybe had a few more flashbacks to give us a glimpse of how evil Kylo Ren was becoming. Do you know what I mean? To make us kind of feel a little bit more on his side, but you didn't ever really get any glimpse in regards to what Luke was seeing to make him want to kill his own family member, his only nephew.
Yeah,
but I think that it kind of shines through, because he's been through all these trials in the first films and come out on top, and the Empire is done. No, the First Order rises, and it's just a continuation of bad things. So I can kind of like understand why he would.
So you kind of think that it's kind of like that he thought he had done everything he needed to do, and like he got rid of the Empire, and now something else bad has just come. So he kind of realizes no matter how much he does, it's always going to be kind of an overlooming evil. So right, okay, I like that. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I would have wanted to see that happen, like him trying to fight against the First Order and failing, and gradually realizing that no matter what I do, like evil triumphs. That would have been interesting. But it feels like they just want to jump in to the next big confrontation between the good guys and the bad guys, just like in the old trilogy. Because The Last Jedi feels just like The Force Awakens feels like a lot of retreading from A New Hope. The Last Jedi feels a lot like The Empire Strikes Back when it comes to certain scenes and certain story developments. So I'm wondering if they're really trying to make a new thing, or if they're just trying to retread the old ones to like stay on the safe side and not upset too many fans.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Yeah, I think there's a level of safe side. There's a lot of trying to play safe.
So what you're saying, Tobias, is that we're gonna see Ewoks in episode 9.
No, maybe not exactly. Maybe like they'll weaponize porks or something. I don't know. But I mean, some sort of like cute thing that is also deadly. No, I don't know. Maybe they'll. I don't have a lot of hope for the next one. I said I wasn't gonna go see The Last Jedi because I wasn't that infatuated with The Force Awakens. I did go and see it, but I didn't pay for it.
What did you think of Rogue One?
I enjoyed it the first time, because I was bedazzled by all the or dazzled, I should say, not bedazzled, dazzled by all the cool action scenes, because they are enjoyable.
Yeah.
Then I rewatched it at home when it came out on Blu-ray, and I was so bored for the first like an hour and a half until they get to Scarif, because then it picks up, it gets kind of exciting. But I am not a fan of Rogue One.
It's not. I like it. I like it in the sense of I would never put it above any of the original Star Wars films, but I like it enough to kind of just be like, I enjoyed it when I was at the cinema. I felt like it gave you good kind of bit of fan service, but it also stayed true to quite a unique story, which I kind of liked. It was nothing that we'd seen before, but like the Vader scene at the end is just like, if you're a massive Star Wars fan, the love for that was great. But I was a big fan. But yeah, I kind of had the similar kind of thing of watching it the second time around, and the enjoyment wasn't there as much as it was the first time.
No.
That happened to me the third time I watched it.
Okay.
So, but I agree with Ryan that it's good, and I got the Star Wars feel.
Yeah, I agree.
I did as well in a few scenes, not overall, but in a few scenes. And I do feel that movie isn't as important to the overall story, so I was able to forgive some things that didn't feel right. It was a more lighthearted story, not really, but you know what I mean. It didn't have as much to do with the new story, so it didn't impact me as much as the Last Jedi did. So therefore, I'm a bit more forgiving towards Rogue One.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So and just quickly then, since it's about just like a month left, what are your thoughts on the Solo movie?
It's not going to be good. It's. I think there's a lot of politics behind it in regards to the directors being sacked, and then I feel like I'm a massive Ron Howard fan, but I don't think his style really matches Star Wars, and especially it looks like it's supposed to be, like, it's obviously supposed to be quite comedy driven, and I don't really see Ron Howard as a very comedy driven director.
No.
At the trailers, and for me, like, Harrison Ford is Han Solo, someone trying to, like, he literally is Han Solo, like how he is as a person, quite outside of acting, is very Han Solo-esque. So I think someone trying to imitate Harrison Ford and Han Solo, I just like, I don't mind this Alden Onrick, his name is something like that, but it's just, for me, it's like he's a special character that just needs to be left alone. He's very unique, and
at worst, it's gonna be like a terrible like SNL sketch.
Yeah.
Like someone doing a bad imitation of Han Solo.
Well, I think I had a really good idea in regards to well, I think it's a good idea, you guys can tell me, is that I thought that they should have tried to convince Harrison Ford to come back and film a few scenes and kind of have like a flash, like a kind of prequel-esqueness to it, where he's got like a young Kylo Ren, like young Ben, and like maybe he's like telling him like a story, like a bedtime story about like a mission that he went on when he was a kid, and then it would like flash back, and then you could have then like Harrison Ford kind of narrating over it a little bit, and kind of have him there and have that presence there of Harrison Ford, and kind of you can see him narrate over it a bit, and then that would allow you to, I think, accept a young of someone else playing him, because you still have that Harrison Ford vibe throughout the film.
Yeah. Well, there's one problem with that, and that is, if you've seen Blade Runner, you know that Harrison Ford isn't very good at the narrating.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
But that's a really cool idea, actually.
Yes,
it reminds me of if any of you remember the Young Indiana Jones series.
Vaguely. I mean, I saw it as a kid.
All the episodes began with an old Indiana Jones telling these stories to a kid.
Yeah, exactly. So that would work.
Yeah.
I was going to say, but I don't think, another thing with Harrison Ford seems to be a hard person to work with, because I mean, both if you think about the voiceover he did for Blade Runner, he just like intentionally fucked it up, and I know he didn't even want to be in the new Star Wars movie. He even wanted to be killed off in Return of the Jedi. So there was no chance for him returning in later movies. So he just hates Star Wars. That's kind of funny.
He hates Star Wars, but he loves Lucasfilm's money.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, my thoughts on the new Solo movie. The first trailer, the first teaser I saw back in February, it looked kind of fun, but then they released this the full trailer, and
I haven't seen that yet, actually.
It's just more of what they showed in the teaser, basically.
Yeah.
it looks boring. It looks flat and uninteresting. I think Alden Ehrenreich does a fairly good impersonation, but yeah, Han Solo has to be Harrison Ford. I'm sorry.
I think I was discussing this with you, that the Solo movie could be the one where I would be okay with them superimposing a young, with CGI, a young Harrison Ford's face.
Like with they did with Tony Stark in whatever Civil War.
Yeah, and Leia in Rogue One.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, maybe.
I would be okay with that.
Like I think the most they ever used that in one whole like film was probably Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy.
Yeah,
yeah.
The villain, the bad guy. What was his name? Was it? It wasn't Tron, was it in it? But anyway, Jeff Bridges.
No, he's called something else. I don't remember. Yeah, but and it back then. I mean, that's 8 years ago now. Well, 8 years in December. That didn't really look that good, but still, that was 8 years ago. So I think they could have done it better now.
Well, the in Rogue One, old Tarkin,
yeah,
and I thought he looked pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't really have as much of a problem with him as other people had. I know some people just hated it. I can agree that it looked a little bit too animation-y sometimes, but I didn't really mind it. I thought it looked fine.
A great example is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
With
Kurt Russell. Yeah,
that was really good. That was really, really good. I was really impressed by
that. So they could do it, and I kind of think that they should have done that.
Yeah, almost. I don't know how well you would accept it for an entire 2-hour runtime.
Yeah.
But from what we've seen, it works. So I don't know. But yeah, to get into kind of the main thing, this episode is going to be slightly different from the other episodes. But if we go back to before The Force Awakens came out, how would you have written the scripts, or at least came up with what would have been your premise for a new trilogy?
So we're blindly pitching.
No. Yeah, give me a pitch, not a 30-second pitch, but a pitch. And I know you already have an idea, right, Martin?
It's a very loose idea. I'm kind of counting on you guys expanding on my pitch.
Okay.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's how we usually do it. So do you want to start, or do you have an idea?
I can start. It's very loose, though.
Okay.
I just want to... my idea is to set it 100 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay. So we just scrub ourselves of any characters from the original. Okay.
Yes, but we have to have that fan service.
Sure.
So we're gonna use Force ghosts, and I forget what they're called. The Jedi cubes. Do you know what
Jedi cubes?
Yeah, it's like a cube with they talk about them in the prequels, in the prequel trilogy. I can't remember what they're called, but it's like a cube that you can open up, and it's like a book basically, but it's a hologram.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember it, but okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be able to use Yoda. We're gonna be able to use Luke Skywalker. All of that.
Okay. But it's 100 years.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep all the characters like Rey and Finn.
Okay.
But it's 100 years, in the future, so they're not gonna have the same the thing Luke Skywalker. He's a distant memory. He's
legend.
Legend, exactly.
And they talk about that the Force is more or less gone, and it's talked about like a legend. I'll remember.
Yeah, exactly. And
the Jedi.
It's gonna be more of an impact that it's a legend, because it's 30 years between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, right?
Yeah, I think so. Something
Yeah,
like 30 years.
yeah, that's a bit short.
Yeah, I know. That
So
always
that's why 100 years, because then
that was always kind of weird in the Force Awakens because like the Jedi, well, Luke at least, was such a big part of the rebellion. I mean, how can they can't
yeah,
just forget about the Force and like, oh, was it really real? No, it was. Leia still exists. I
yeah,
mean, so that was always kind of weird. So it makes sense to put it a little further into the future.
yeah. And I'm thinking about keeping like Kylo Ren as well, just changing up his backstory.
Okay, yeah, because he can't be the son of Luke, Han.
Yeah, exactly. And that's basically my idea.
Okay,
It's very loose.
so it's very loose. So it's
Very
100. It's 100 years in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I mean, I got a few ideas, like a few minor ideas, just in my head right now. But what about you, Ryan? What is your preferred episode 7,
Okay.
if you will?
Well, I
Just
think to be honest, I have always actually enjoyed the idea of an older Luke who's now a master of the Jedi, and training someone.
okay.
I have always enjoyed that.
Like
I
in
ca-
the what's it called? There are a couple of video games where he like has a Jedi temple and trains people, like Jedi Academy or something.
oh really? No, I've never seen that.
Oh, okay.
But but yeah, something like that, and I think it would have been good if I think this might have been done in the books, but if
Mm.
Han and Leia had twins, one girl, one boy, and he used to train them both.
Yeah, I think I've heard. I'm not a big expanded universe guy,
No,
but
Yeah,
I've
something
heard
along
of
those
that.
lines.
I've heard of that.
And I think one of them become bad, one of them kind of become good, kind of thing. And I thought that would be really cool. And I kind of thought like the way that they were leading the Force Awakens, I thought something similar like that was going to happen when I saw the trailers, and I thought that like Kylo Ren and Rey were going to be kind of like twin, like brother or sister that had kind of been separated. And I thought
Mm,
that would have been a really cool premise. So I kind of like the way the Force Awakens was kind of going, but it's just the way it was executed. So I enjoyed how that Luke had banished himself per se because of stuff that had happened, but not
okay.
completely given up on the Force, but kind of just I wanted him to be so dangerous that he's the most powerful person with the Force ever, that he had to put himself in hiding because anything that
Yeah.
he does to someone around him, he could hurt who the person he loves. So I like to have thought that the big disaster that happened in the Solo family was due to Luke because of how he couldn't control his powers. He was too in touch with the dark and the light and caused a massive rift. But then he does decide to come back and help fight the good fight and stuff like that. But there's also this level of this dangerousness, like he's a nuclear bomb ready to go off and stuff like that.
Mm. Sort of like they did in Logan. That was one of the more interesting parts about Logan. That Professor X can't really control his powers anymore. So
Yeah,
he's like a walking bomb.
yeah, yeah.
That was kind of cool actually. So
So
that makes
something like that, and like
yeah.
it'd be really really cool. And then you have the dynamic of the good and the bad brother and sister. You have Leia and Han kind of caught in the middle of that, and then Luke there is the only one really that can kind of do it, like save them or help fight against back, but he's struggling to control his powers. And like just something along the lines of that. And to be honest, at the Force Awakens, the one thing that really just disappointed me was that I think that Luke should have appeared at the end to kind of save Rey. I don't like that Rey had this ability of being able to fight Kylo Ren and all this stuff. I'd liked the dynamic of Rey hadn't really learned how to use the Force, but one had, and I'd like to have that Luke had come back because he had sensed danger with Han Solo, and he'd come back maybe just a second too late, but he saves Rey, and so I liked where they were going with it. Just the execution of it is really really poor.
Mm. And I know from interviews and stuff that that's what Mark Hamill thought as well. He thought he was going to appear in that forest where they
Yeah.
fight, and he was kind of bummed out that he didn't.
Just imagine seeing the green lightsaber light. You know how dark it was in that thing. Like you just in like you saw like Kylo Ren beats Rey, he's about to finish her, and you literally just see like the green lightsaber just kind of like light up in the back. Like it would have been amazing. I know I'm talking very fan servicey, but I felt like it still would have
Yeah,
worked in the
but it would have
story.
worked. Yeah,
Yeah,
it would have worked. Fan service can work if you work it into the story, so it's not just like, oh, look at this. It's actually part of the story. Then
yeah.
I enjoy fan service like that. Um, my idea. I've had an idea for a long time for the Force Awakens, or my Force Awakens, if you will. I never really had a complete idea for a trilogy, but at least my Force Awakens would have taken place, like maybe 10, 15 years, so sort of the same as Force Awakens, 10, 15 years after Return, but it actually centers on like a band of stormtroopers that have like exiled themselves on some planet, sort of like Jakku or Tatooine or something like that, and they're still loyal to the Empire even though it doesn't exist. Sort of like neo-Nazis now. They're kind of loyal to this empire that doesn't exist.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they have both men and women, so they have started to have children there. They tell them the stories of the magnificent empire, and it was such a great time in the galaxy. Because I know that's a thing too among fans, that if you kind of look at it, even if the empire was they were kind of ruling with an iron fist, it was at least peace in the galaxy. So I imagine some people would like look back at the time of the empire as something good, and because of these characters being stormtroopers, that would make sense. So what they like kind of do with this renewed interest from the younger generation, they would like start like a paramilitary group or like a terrorist group, and they would like they would fight in the name of the empire, and that since they are the first in their like this new breed of the empire, they would call themselves the First Order. And at first, it would be like a couple of bombings here and there. They would raid some military base or something, and the Republic wouldn't really care about it. It's a local issue, but they would slowly grow, and they would actually start to become an actual threat. They would start building their armies. They would start to build their like with weapons and ships and all that. And it would kind of be like an origin story of the First Order. And
yeah, I was thinking it sounds like a political thriller set in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, which is
an interesting idea, but I'd imagine that the fans would be fuming.
Yeah, maybe. And I could imagine people thinking it's not very Star Warsy, but it's an interesting idea. And
I think as long as there's some sort of connection. So if you had the leader of this First Order, this clan had some sort of connection to the Force, to the Jedi, and that's the work like. And like he's very much like Kylo Ren in the sense he's obsessed with Darth Vader, so he could have had some sort of ancestry to maybe something like Palpatine. And that's really reaching off the top of my head, but and therefore he's and he's like got like Sith techs. I don't know what they have. Do you know what I mean? And he's been able to kind of teach himself the Jedi, like the Force, but he's kind of very loose cannon. And maybe like Luke is like so arrogant he doesn't really take him too seriously, and something like that. Maybe like
and they would the First Order, then they would say that, oh, we can only grow so much without actually getting in touch with the dark side, the Sith. So they like dig up some old Sith Lord, which could be what's his name, Snoke, and he kind of brings it all together, and that's how they create the First Order, and that kind of awakens the dark side in maybe a character like Kylo Ren. And
that'd be cool. I feel like maybe wake up some sort of like ancestry kind of like buried forces like Snoke, like they could give Snoke an actual proper backstory of how that maybe like he was kind of sentenced to some sort of like mummifying or something like that, and they kind of wake him up. Like I'd be a bit far out, but if they could probably execute it better than maybe we're saying it.
Exactly.
That's what I'm thinking for my idea as well. But I actually or are you finished, Tobias?
I was sort of finished. I just wanted to say, because one of my biggest issues with The Force Awakens was that the last time we saw like the bad guys, the Empire, they were finished. They had blown up they had blown up the second Death Star. The Emperor was dead. Darth Vader was dead. And as far as we know from the movies, there weren't any Empire ships left. I know in the expanded universe there were a bunch of planets, but I never understood where the First Order got all their money from, or like how the fuck do you build a planet-sized Death Star just like that? It didn't make sense to me how they did that. I guess that doesn't really make
independent contractors.
yeah, and it doesn't really have to make sense in a fantasy movie or sci-fi movie, whichever you want to call it. But it just stretched.
Yeah, it really stretched the limits. The Starkiller the base was an absolute joke. Oh my god,
it was so weird,
so stupid. Could they not just come up with something better like than that as well? Like they just, I know you said they had to do the New Hope and kind of make it similar, but that was just, I thought it was just way too similar. It's like, oh my god, it was just so bad.
Yeah, or maybe they didn't have to blow it up because, like, what are they going to do in the next one? Are they going to build an even bigger Death Star now?
No, they're just going to have a really, really slow chase of this slow spaceship, and it's just like in the Force Awakens they made the they weren't called the Rebellion. What are they called in it? The
Resistance.
Resistance.
Yeah.
Like, how have they gone from them winning in the Return of the Jedi to now being back to being a Resistance, and this random First Orders come out of nowhere, become so massive, and put them on the back foot, even though they essentially just destroyed it. It just
I actually read up on this because I had the same.
Yeah, I just gotta tell. Yeah, there is an explanation, but I know there's like on Wikipedia or whatever, but I don't consider that canon, even though it is. I mean, if you can't explain it in the movie, what's the point, really?
Yeah.
Because I know there's this long, convoluted explanation where the First Order came from, and but like in the movie, you have the First Order, which we can suppose is a much smaller force than the Empire was, and we still have the Republic. They blow up Coruscant in the Force Awakens, so the Republic is still the rulers of the galaxy. So why is there like a small resistance force? Why aren't they part of the Republic army? It never made sense to me.
Yeah.
What is the reason for the First Order? I haven't. What is that? What's the story behind that?
Yeah. Tell the
story behind it is that basically the Republic, if I remember this correctly, it's like Leia is part of the Republic Senate, and someone on the Senate that wants her place discovers that her real father was Vader and tells everyone in the Senate, so she's basically kicked out.
Okay.
And because the Senate doesn't want to do anything about the First Order.
No, they're not a threat yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the like gist of it.
Not sure I'm feeling that, but
yeah.
No, I know.
It's not a good explanation.
No, it's just an explanation.
It would have been cool if they showed it.
That's the problem, though. Like, it's the problem with the Star Wars. I think. Did you see the tweets that Rian Johnson put out a couple of months ago in regards to the because everyone was moaning about how Luke had that kind of ability to project himself, and he did you not see the tweets? Like, it was massive, and he
I don't follow Rian Johnson.
Well, like, it was all on the news and stuff, because he did multiple tweets where he was getting closer and closer to a bookshelf, like pictures, and then he takes the book off from the shelf, and then he opens up a page, and the book is called like something like the Path of the Force, and it's got like all the abilities of all the powers and stuff that you can use with the Force.
Oh yeah.
And then he took a picture of how a Jedi can, if powerful enough, can project himself across the side. One, I found out later that book was in canon. So one, I thought that was ridiculous. But two, I thought Rian Johnson doing that, I think everyone was like, oh my God, Rian Johnson's amazing. He's just shut everyone up. But for me, I was just like, he hasn't shut everyone up. What he's done is he's now shot himself in the foot that he's an awful storyteller. So even if that power or not was real and was something that was invented back in the time and all that stuff and was canon, he shot himself in the foot that he's a poor storyteller, that everyone's questioning whether this is actually a real power because he hadn't explained it in the film. Have you ever seen Steven Spielberg go out to Twitter and have to back up one of his points in one of his films because people didn't get it? It's like, you don't see Christopher Nolan do it, but yet he did it and he thought he was being cool. And
yeah, That's a really important part, not only in Star Wars. I mean, in storytelling, in movies. If you can't like convince the audience in the movie that this works, then it
It's failed. You
fails.
can't use
Yeah.
you can't use a third party tool or anything like that, can you? An external source
No.
to go ahead and be like, oh no, this is right. So stop you moaning because like this is what I thought. It's like when I was creating the film, it's like, well, then you should have portrayed it. It's like someone creating a piece of art and then leaving out a major part, like Mona. Do you know what I mean? Like the Mona Lisa missing out a massive part,
Yeah.
and then going, oh no, this would be better. I just forgot to put a bloody her eyes, Mr. Eyes. So, yeah, it would be better. I just didn't put her eyes on. It's like you got to finish the bit, or else it's not going to be classed as a good piece of work.
Can we just agree that the fandom behind Star Wars and any fandom basically is cancer?
Yeah, it's starting
Because
to become
it's
that.
like, yeah, because it's like fans moaning on Twitter, like retweeting him and like tagging him in their complaints all the time and all the time. So I'm pretty sure that he felt like cornered, like he had to explain himself.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not trying to like defend him or anything
no,
because
I
I
agree.
agree with you
I know what
guys.
you mean. I think it definitely there's cancer on both sides. The people
Yeah.
Yes.
the people
Oh,
that support
yeah.
it are just as bad. I think people should have the right to be able to express their opinion. That's what we're all doing here. You guys have just started off, and I've been doing it for a little while. Everyone has the right to be able to express their opinion. It's about how you do it. So
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
shouldn't be. I would never give Ryan Johnson abuse because he's created something that I don't like or
No.
try and do anything like that. No, that's not right. But nor should fans that didn't enjoy the film who express their views on their own platform in their own way. You don't have to read it if you don't want to. Shouldn't also then be attacked in a negative way. I don't get me wrong. I like people that come and go, oh, I don't quite agree with that because I saw the film this way, blah, blah, blah. That's a healthy conversation. But when people turn around and be like, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, and it's just an outright attack on that person because they don't agree with you, then yeah, it can get too far. I appreciate that it's passion, and I like passion. I don't like people that kind of sit on the fence, but on the same token, you need to know when you've gone from being passionate to actually just kind of attacking someone and being quite violent.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And that's sort of the position I have. I didn't like. I can definitely see both sides, even though I lean slightly more towards not liking it or hating it. I should say.
I lean more towards hating it.
Yeah, yeah. Because I don't I
We've
like
had so many discussions about this.
yeah, like
And to be honest,
conversations we have like started up, and then it started to get sort of like vitriolic, and then it was like, let's just not.
Well, like yourselves, I actually have a colleague myself who works for Life of Films with me as well, and he's
Yeah.
a big Star Wars fan, and he really hates the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi with me as well. So I'm quite glad that I have a friend that I work quite closely with that shares the same opinion as me, because I'm not Life of Films might have died if we both saw it otherwise.
Yeah. That was kind of the way I was feeling, because like in my immediate circle of friends, at least the ones that have seen it, it's really just it's you, Martin. I don't really know anyone else. And we don't agree on it for the most part, and it's been kind of frustrating. I haven't.
Martin, what did you like about it?
I for the first thing, I got the Star Wars feel.
Okay.
That's like one of the most important things for me.
Okay, no, that's fine. Everyone looks at Star Wars in a different way. So
Yeah, it felt like a Star Wars movie.
Okay.
And I really loved all the scenes with Kylo and Rey, as I stated earlier. I really liked Luke, and I loved the scene with Luke and Leia in the end.
Yeah, that was a nice one. It was short, but it was nice.
Yeah.
Well, I came up with the ultimate ending as well for The Last Jedi, which could have probably saved it.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So I didn't like the force projection stuff, right?
No,
so what happens is, you know that Rey saw Luke's ship under the water.
Yeah.
What I reckon would have been good is, one, they should have had a scene again, maybe repetitive too much, but him trying to tell Rey to use the force to get the ship out, but she can't, etc. But then later on, towards the end, they're in that bunker, they're about to be destroyed. what's his name? Poe Dameron obviously doesn't have a ship. He doesn't have a ship. He doesn't have a ship anymore. So, and obviously they're stuck in there. There's no exit. So they think they're all stuck in there. Then Leia turns out, and she's just like, I'm going to go out. I'm going to try and see if I can get my son to not destroy us. He won't shoot me down, kind of thing. And she's like, you guys try and find a way out. And so then she walks out. She stands there in front. And you know, earlier in the scene, you had Kylo Ren, and he didn't shoot her when she went out into space, and she was Mary Poppins thing. He like went to go, didn't. But I think now would have been good that there's a kind of a bit of hesitation, but he actually does it this time, which shows that he has actually properly now succumbed to the dark side. He wasn't before at the beginning, but now he's killed Snoke, and he then does actually tells to do to fire. One bullet comes flying across, and you see it stop right in front of Leia, and you're just like, shit, she's obviously really powerful Force. We saw her do that really rubbish stuff before, but now you son her. But then she's there, like, as you're standing there, and then it's actually not her, and then behind her is actually Luke, and Luke is there, like, holding one of the blasters, and then he tells her to go back, and that he's like to go back there. There's an entrance. You see them because he's made the entrance through the Force. He's the one that opened up the crack through the back. She goes out. Poe gets Luke's new ship. So Poe gets Luke's ship, so then he actually gets a new one, and that his new ship actually means something because it's the old X-wing that Luke had. He flies off in that. Rey flies off in they all fly off in the Millennium Falcon, and then you see then Luke, and then Kylo Ren goes mental, tells everyone to fire at Luke, and he gets fire, and you see him, and he then like literally like you think he's gonna be dead, but he's actually there, and he survived, and he's held all of the shots because that's how powerful he is as a Jedi. So then Kylo Ren comes down to fight him, and then he kind of has the Obi-Wan Kenobi moment of kind of being like, strike me down, all that stuff, and then I'll haunt you forever and all that crap. And so that's kind of the way that he goes out. Does that make sense? Like he goes out like that way, or I think that would be something that maybe a little bit along the lines of that. Maybe would have been a bit cooler.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It was pretty good because I always thought that because he wasn't there, he was just a projection. It was kind of a cheat because his death wasn't meaningful.
No.
And I'm all for killing off characters, but it has to mean something. And it was just a distraction to let them escape. And he basically just like tips his fedora and says, "Good game, kid," or "Catch you later, kid."
Yeah.
I was almost walking out of
and
the
then he dies by himself. Like imagine he doesn't actually, Kylo Ren doesn't come down and has a fight. And what it is they just keep shooting loads of blasters at him, and you see him, and he's using as much power as he can to hold it back to save enough time for them to escape. And you like see him maybe like sliding back on that white like salt snow. And you know what I mean? He's holding it back enough time for them to be able to escape.
And then he lets go.
And like you think of the massive like John Williams score building up, and maybe you see him kind of like look across, and then you see his X-wing and the Millennium Falcon fly off into like a binary sunset. Do you know what I mean? And he sees that, and he's seen it. They've escaped. And then he just lets go, and then like all the blasters like completely just wipes him out. Do you know what I mean? And he just kind of disappears, and you see like Leia and everyone look out the window, and you can see that he just kind of just lets go, and like it's just, you know what I mean? Like he's done something.
Yeah, exactly. It would be much more impactful, and I know a lot of people, or at least some people, they argued that we wanted, or it was supposed to like. He was supposed to see the twin suns on that island planet he was on. But this is a made-up universe. There could have been twin suns on this salt planet as well. So that argument is just null and void. The twin suns can be on any planet. And that makes me think of the ending of what's it called? Hero, the movie with Jet Li, where he like faces down like 1,000 arrows, but he does it like he willingly takes those arrows because he has accomplished what he's supposed to accomplish.
Exactly. I thought that'd be like, some people I remember telling us, and they were like, "Oh, you just want to see Luke just get absolutely like done over by blasters." But I think that you see him just kind of, do you know what I mean? Like, how good would it have been if you'd have seen the X-wing and the Millennium Falcon kind of like a silhouette just fly off into like the binary sunset,
and he knows,
and you hear Luke's theme. Do you know what I mean? You hear Luke's theme, kind of like the sound really kind of all like the war behind. He's like proper mellowed down, and you're just with Luke in his thoughts. You see him close his eyes, and you know what I mean, like, and then he just like let's go, and like you can even kind of
cut to black there. You don't even have to show it. You just cut to black before the blaster hits him.
Or it can be like I tell you know when how like Obi-Wan tells Luke to kind of just when he shoots into the New Hope, and he tells him to let go, doesn't he? Like to use the Force and like to let go, and like he could have had like something similar. to that. Do you know what I mean? You could have maybe replayed that Obi-Wan kind of thing to Luke in the background, and it just kind of like you know what I mean, to kind of bring homage back to that, and you have the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi behind, and just kind of like let go, Luke. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've done what you need to do, and then you know what I mean. And like he does it, and like it'd be amazing. How good would that be? Come on,
that's a great ending, actually. Now I'm really warming up to it. That would be great, yeah, to really make his death mean something.
Yeah.
Before he goes out. Ah, damn it!
How inspiring would it have been as well for Rey to have seen Luke like give himself, do you know what I mean, like his life, actually see it, like
yeah, and he really shows her what the Force is able to do, even just the light side, because she's kind of struggling in the movie, the dark side, the light side, but he shows her that there is an immense amount of power on the light side as well.
Definitely.
And it comes with less sacrifice, even though he dies, but that's about the sacrifice you have to do. So yeah, that's a really good ending, actually, and you don't really have to change much about the rest of the movie.
No, but I think it would have saved it. I think it would have saved it then as well, wouldn't it? I think you would have then been able to see Luke in a different light when you watch the film a second time, knowing like what he will end up doing. So he's this grumpy person now, but you know what I mean? He does end up being the Luke
he comes back
to see and stuff, and it's like, and I know it's like, oh, he did that because he used all his power to do the Force Ghost, but it's just for me, it just felt a bit hollow. Like it just like it felt a bit hollow for me personally. Like there was like this power that none of us had ever heard of before, whether it's canon or not, and it was all a bit like, and then he shrugs off his shoulder and it's all a joke, and then he's like, it's a bit silly. Like for me, I don't think it really shown his true strength, and that was one thing that you didn't ever really get to see about Luke, is that we saw 3 films of him becoming a Jedi Master, and then we never ever really saw him become a Jedi Master. We never saw him do anything. Like it's his made up power.
Yeah, we never got to see him really flex his power.
Yeah, no, not at all. He even gets beat by Rey in like a duel. Like she like doesn't like, and I'm just like, what was that all about? Like some chick that's like only learned about the Force a couple of weeks ago, because the film happens directly after the Force Awakens, and it's like, and she manages to beat Luke in a one-on-one like duel. They're not using lightsabers, but they're using like sticks, aren't they? And it's like, how the hell is that? And it wasn't because he was disconnected with the Force, because moments before that he spots Kylo Ren and Rey talking, like doing their Skyping, and he blows up the hut that they're in, doesn't he, with the Force? And then he also, when she knocks him down, he stops himself from like falling on the floor by like pushing himself up with the Force, doesn't he? So it's not even like he'd completely disconnected at that point. He actually was kind of bringing it back. So yeah. Rubbish. Yeah,
and that's also that's a problem with the character, that it isn't consistent about him not being in touch with the Force anymore.
Yeah,
that's a problem in the script. It kind of goes in and out, and he is out of touch with the Force when it fits the story, but when he needs the Force, it's back.
Exactly, like when she's doing the can he like turn it to breathe and like go to the Force. He senses that she went to the dark side. He was like, you went to the dark side and you never came back. Do you know what I mean? Like you went there, like you didn't even think twice about going over to see. Like he's like, well, how do you know that if you weren't attached to the Force in the slightest at all? And like,
it doesn't follow the internal logic of the movie.
No, and that's the problem with me. It was overall like just it's like no one did any Star Wars research. It's like no one actually researched what Star Wars is about, etc. And that's why it bugs me that George Lucas was never involved, because they didn't need George Lucas to direct or write it, but just to go there and be like, does this make sense? Does this work in your universe? The character is, and then just do you know what I mean? Just to guide them and be like, I don't think that's the Luke that I create would be like that, and then they'll have some sort of just a count like consulting. But the fact that they were just very much just like, oh, you made the prequels, everyone hated them, therefore we don't want anything to do with you. Give us Star Wars and now kind of go away kind of thing. It's like George Lucas is Star Wars. Sure, he went mental. He created some crazy stuff, and maybe he should have stopped at the original trilogy. But at the end of the day, he is the creator. He knows it came out of his head. He knows what essentially people they can and cannot do, etc. So, but whatever.
Yeah, and he always functioned, I would say, better as a producer than he did a director.
Yeah.
So and that was, I remember when he signed over Lucasfilms, they were saying he was going to be the keeper of the flame, which I always interpreted as he's going to stay on as an executive producer or something like story consultant. But I know he presented some ideas for a new trilogy, and they just completely threw him to the side, which is it's sad, really. And in interviews, he's kind of sad about it too, because he thought, yes, I'm letting go of total control, but I'm still going to be around to like, yeah, to show them the path or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Nah, fuck you, get out of here. And it's like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Martin, what's your vibes?
I agree with you guys. It would have been interesting if he had any input, like you said, like would this work? And he could like, because there's that famous quote from Mark Hamill that I fundamentally disagree with what you're doing with the character.
Yeah.
So in one way, it wouldn't have mattered if George Lucas would have said, I wouldn't do that with Luke Skywalker. Because if they don't listen to Mark Hamill, are they going to listen to George Lucas? Like, in a way. But
that's mad, isn't it? That is mad that Luke, that Mark Hamill said that he feels that this isn't what the right Luke, and they were just like, no. I feel like for me that goes to show for me their actual intentions, that they cared more about what they wanted the universe to be, so that they could make money, more than what actually was coherent and actually made sense to the character. And someone that was a part of the creation of Luke played Luke. It's just all a bit like, how could you not take his opinion seriously? I know he's only an actor, but he was a part of the creation. He's good friends with George Lucas. He was a part of that, and he lived that character for like 10 years.
And I'm wondering, in a way, like, is it Rian Johnson's fault, or is it like Lucasfilm or Disney? Whose fault is it?
I think it's Rian Johnson's. I think it's Disney to let Rian Johnson have such free reign, but I think it's Rian Johnson's, because it doesn't make sense.
They gave him writing and directing credits, sole credits. So as far as we who haven't been on the other side of it, as far as we know, he wrote that character the way it is written.
Yeah.
There's probably input from Lucasfilm and from Kathleen Kennedy and all that, but as far as we know, and he hasn't said anything else like, oh no, we had ghostwriters, we had a writing room. No, it says written and directed by Rian Johnson.
And the weird thing is like that it's like he had all this power, but it's like he hated J.J. Abrams. Like I said, I didn't like The Force Awakens, but I was kind of excited for what J.J. had set up. So I thought, when I came out of Force Awakens, I was like, right, wasn't a fan, quite disappointed. But the next film should be unbelievable, because he's actually putting some really good foundations for some good stuff. Like, we're going to see Luke, he's going to be awesome. Like the scene where she hands him the lightsaber. The most important things in all 6 films. It's part of one of the most greatest scenes in cinema history. And it leads up, J.J. Abrams leads it, and he gives that respect. He gives that lightsaber respect to the way he builds up to that, the way that scene maybe is a bit too long. It's probably about 5 minutes long of Ray just holding out. But he gives it, at least he gave it respect. Yeah. And then Rian Johnson's just like, right, there's this scene, and I want to shock the audience. All I give a crap about is shocking the audience. I want to get a cheap thing in there. And it's just like,
I actually kind of like that scene.
No.
Yeah, but
oh my god.
It's so punk.
But
it's not coherent. Okay,
it's not.
No, it's not good.
It doesn't make sense, because the fact of the matter is, it actually genuinely feels like Rian Johnson's been like, I actually don't like this, because he's in his Jedi robes and everything.
Yeah, he's tossing the Star Wars lore behind him. That's what the lightsaber becomes.
If he hates the Jedi so much and thinks, why is he stood around in his Jedi robes? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense that this person hated the Force that much. It's like, I don't think JJ was expecting Rian Johnson to make Luke Skywalker so against the Force and so miserable. No. Like, I don't think that's the case, because if the Luke Skywalker that Rian Johnson gave us, that Luke Skywalker would not have been stood on that side wearing his Jedi robes if he was completely done with being a Jedi. Why would he? Like, are they just comfy? Does he just like wearing them during the day because they're comfy still? I don't know. Like, it wasn't coherent at all. So if you like the scene of him throwing the lightsaber, I think it was disrespectful, fine. But you have to agree that the continuity of it didn't make sense. I was like, what? That makes no sense.
I understand the problem with that scene, but I can, in a way, I kind of like, I only see it as a fun scene.
But it shouldn't be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it shouldn't be a fun scene though. It should not at all be like ha ha ha, because like Ryan said, that's where they ended. There was a very like heavy ending of the Force Awakens, and I'm all for him. Like yeah, because that's part of his character. Him rejecting the Jedi and him even like dropping the lightsaber, but the so nonchalantly just throwing it. I would have been like if he just like
how would it,
dropped it.
the thing is, how do you begin from that scene? It's kind of, I know what you're saying and I understand and I agree, but it ends on it's such a heavy scene that it's so hard to start something from that scene.
No, I think that's right. This person is a complete stranger to him. He could easily just turn around and be like, who are you? Like, if they wanted to
Yeah.
crack a joke, he could even have been like, who the hell are you? Do you know what I mean? Something that's like,
Yeah.
how have you got this? Like, do you know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
kind of like,
he could have taken the lightsaber and like held it like he did instead of throwing it, like shifting focus to her. He's like, oh my god, this person brought me my lightsaber, and then wait, who are you? So instead of like actively just discarding the lightsaber, just shift focus from the lightsaber because that's kind of what this is. The lightsaber, um, lightsaber, what do you call it? It's basically it's the old Star Wars. It's a symbol of the old Star Wars. Rey is a symbol of the new Star Wars. And I understand that they want to shift over from the old Star Wars to the new Star Wars. So what they should have done then would be to shift focus from the lightsaber, him holding it, and then looking up at her and like being interested in her instead of the lightsaber. Because it is that would have been a more respectful way to shift focus over to the new character to Rey, but him still holding it. It's just like Ryan said. It is so disrespectful to have him just toss it over his shoulder. I fucking hated that scene. And I'm not even that big of a Star Wars fan. I like them as movies. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I like them as movies. But I felt that was super disrespectful.
yeah, definitely. Like, this is, like I said, it's the lightsaber that he's holding when he fights Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back and has his arm. Like, last time he saw that lightsaber was when that happened, when he found out that his father was, that was the last time he saw it. And
Yeah.
it's like, and he just goes, like, throws it like nothing. Like, imagine if he took it and he was there, like, watched it, and then they played in the background, like, the noise of, like, Vader, and like he's having, like, a memory, do you know what I mean, the flashbacks, and you hear, like, the Luke's no, like, in the background, it's very faint, do you know what I mean, like, that it's brought back those memories for him as he's held it, something along those lines.
Like the use the Force Ray, or these are the first steps.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah.
and he just hears it, just in the sense that it just gives you the audience that idea of not having a flashback or anything, and it playing very faintly in the background, just gives you that idea of that, like, that was the last time you saw it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then maybe he could be, and then like the no part could maybe drive to a bit of the climax in his thought, where he just hands it back to Ray and goes, he's just like, I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you brought this to me, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And hands it back, and then walks off. Very much just like you see him have a bit more of this kind of like emotional moment inside internally, and he just hands it back. He's just like get off, like I don't want to be a part of this. I don't know where you got it from. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of done with this. If that's what they wanted, but to throw it over, it's just like,
yeah,
it's a cheap trick. It was a cheap gag for me. It was a cheap gag,
Yeah.
and that's what Disney have become. Like, I'm a big fan of the Marvel films, don't get me wrong, but they've started to weave that gag and that getting a laugh at any moment into Star Wars, and Star Wars was never like that. They had comedic moments and stuff, but it's becoming Disneyified. It's like whenever there's a serious tone that could happen, it's, oh no, we're going to put a joke in there to lighten up the mood.
Yeah, I remember reading that in your Last Jedi review.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and the thing is, I don't hate the Marvel movies, but I think they're worse than the new Star Wars. But the Star Wars is getting into that territory. I agree with you there, but I think the Marvel movies are far worse.
Really?
I have more hope for Star Wars than Marvel movies.
That's interesting because I'm also quite. I'm not a big fan of the Marvel movies. I'm more on the like what do you say, on the corporate side of it, how it's structured. over at Marvel and Disney. The movies, I enjoy most of them to some extent. I feel they're a bit light, but that's always the thing that I've been kind of torn between, because I hate the way they have set it up over on the corporate side, on the managerial side. But usually, I mean, I've seen almost every movie in the cinema because they're still, they're fun. They're disposable fun. And I kind of look forward, even though I don't really want to admit it, I look forward more to the next like Marvel movie than I do the new Star Wars, because there's not as much story behind the Marvel movies, so they can kind of do what they want with those. But there's so much lore and so much story behind. There's so much history, I should say, behind the Star Wars movies. So they should have handled those with more care than they have.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. They should have a lot more respect, and I think there is easier for Marvel to be good because the stuff come before it. I feel it's not that great, so they had a good window.
They had a better opportunity to build that from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I don't fully agree with it, but I definitely enjoy those movies more than I enjoy those.
I'm a big fan of the Marvel films, don't get me wrong, but there's a level of me that kind of hates them a little bit, in the sense of that I feel like I did a blog on, I think, are they ruining cinema in the way of just kind of this like format that they've got, and how now everyone wants to do like he's building this universe because they can see the money that it makes, and
that's sort of my position on it.
And it's like the format that they've got now as well. It's just a little bit like, come on, let's do something new. I can kind of almost tell you if I go see a film like I've never seen before. I reckon I could tell you when there's a joke's going to appear. The format's getting that samey. A joke is going to appear right now.
Yeah, that's a problem with movies nowadays in general. I think that you can see so much of the skeleton of the script or the movie, like
you can just predict it.
You can just predict it, because they're like, it's like they've built a house but they didn't finish in a way.
The outside is finished, but there's nothing.
You can see all the strings.
So that's the thing, and I don't mind the jokes.
No.
And I don't mind it being like that. What I mind is when they do the jokes, when it takes off from like some really good moments. You know what I mean? There's like bits where it's like, have you guys seen the latest Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, I won't do this. I'm trying to think of. It happens loads of times where something like really awesome is about to happen. There's a really good build up to it, and you're like, "Oh, this is going to be amazing!" Like you're like, Captain America's about to do something amazing. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, and you're building up to it, and they build up to it, and it's like joke. And you're like, oh.
They undercut it with a joke.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, what are you doing? And it's like, it becomes disappointing after a while. Like now and then it's like good because you don't see the joke coming, but now you do. And it's like, okay, now I really actually want to see Captain America do something really serious and really awesome, or Tony Stark, and it not be undercut by a joke. I want him to do something amazing and it just be amazing, not be funny.
The funny thing is, my favorite Marvel movie is actually Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Right. Okay.
Speaking of humor and jokes.
But in that it kind of works, because they sort of from the beginning almost bill it like a comedy.
Yeah.
So it works there because the comedy is consistent throughout the movie.
But they actually have a good scene in that, to be fair, where like this is kind of like what I'm talking about, where they don't do it, which is good, is when Peter is under all the rubble.
Yeah.
And you realise that he's just a kid, and you know what I mean, and he's scared.
Yeah,
and
that's
trying to get himself. But like, and for me, it's like that's a good scene. Like it's serious, it's got emotion to it, and there wasn't a joke that was taken away.
Yeah.
It's like
be serious when you need to be serious, and be funny when it fits.
Yeah.
That's a big problem with The Last Jedi. The comedy never works. I think I chuckled once, but I don't remember when.
There's lots of unintentional chuckling.
Oh, yeah, that might be it. Yeah, I might have just chuckled at how ridiculous it was. Yeah. But none of the comedy worked in The Last Jedi for me. It just fell flat completely.
No, I didn't laugh at a single thing.
No, and it's because they start off the movie with a very serious scene undercut by a joke. The whole I'm holding for hugs. And I don't know if I never asked anyone. When I saw it in Sweden, it was of course subtitled in Swedish. They subtitled it as he's saying, not saying General Hux, but saying General Hugs, as in hugging. Is that just me, or was it a problem with the subtitles?
Well, I can't imagine they would have got the subtitles wrong, especially for someone's name. So he might have been taking the mick out of him because he was.
What was it like when you saw it, Martin? Because you obviously saw it in Sweden as well.
Yeah, it was hugs.
Oh, that's so terrible! Why start your movie off ridiculing your characters? I don't even care if it's a bad guy. Don't ridicule your characters.
But it was straight up like that. That's for me. That was instantly when that scene happened. I started getting. I was like, yeah. It's been Disney-fied. This is what I'm going to expect for the rest of the film now.
Yeah, it sets the tone that this is a funny movie, but then it gets super dark at times, but then it gets funny again, and it never meshed. It never worked together.
Like Kylo Ren's character was too serious, I think, to be in a comedy, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. His character would have worked better like the way it was in The Force Awakens, where he was kind of silly almost. He was lashing out like a teenager, slashing up with the sword. That worked.
Yeah, he was. But in this one, he was really dark.
Yeah, and it didn't fit with the comedy.
No,
almost no character fit with the comedy.
I think it's kind of funny. Before we started the recording, me and Tobias were discussing. Yeah, let's not talk about the Last Jedi
too much.
yeah,
I know, but it's
but it's kind of inevitable in a way.
Yes, because it is the biggest problem with the new trilogy.
Well, I don't know where they're going to go from it now. Like, because
the thing is,
Snoke, they should never have. Again, spoilers. They should never have killed Snoke.
No, they could have killed him, but then they had to really emphasize that Kylo becomes the new main bad guy. Yeah. Like him sitting down on the throne or something, but they didn't do that.
Imagine if they start the next movie with the coronation of the new supreme leader. That would actually be kind of cool.
And it being Kylo?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, that could work.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But it doesn't feel like they're going to. No, they're not going to do it.
I feel like they needed a new director. I feel like because I think JJ's coming back now, and I think that he's going to try and finish off his story.
And it's not going to work at all.
Get someone brand new in, and to be like, look, these are two films. Fans like them, fans don't. Do you know what I mean? And just get someone that's so outside, and you know what I mean, come in and try and not I don't want to say fix it. Apart from me, I think they need to fix it. But they need to come in and just look at something and look at it structurally and have no emotion in it. I feel like JJ's gonna have too much emotion in it now to be able to do a decent film. They need someone that's really outside, someone that can come in and just be very level-headed and look at what the fans said and look at everything and then just try and make something that's the best. Maybe not even a Star Wars fan.
Do you have any
Star Wars fan?
Yeah, do you have any in mind? Anyone in mind?
I feel like Matthew Vaughn would be really good. Matthew Vaughn would be good. I like what he did with Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is one of my favorite films. Like that's like the balance between kind of the comedy in that film to how dark it is, and it's good. The chemistry in that film is good. Like it's not just like a joke here and then dark here. Like it all works. Like it's all very. Well, I love Kick-Ass. I think it's an absolutely brilliant film. So I think getting him something like that, I think he'd be really good at trying to maybe do something like that. What about you guys?
I'm kind of like, in a way, my pick for last year's best movie was Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
I really, really, really love that movie. So I'm gonna say
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because he's a good director, and he's a he has like how do you
certain style?
Yeah, a certain style and like a flair for science fiction, obviously.
I agree. I really, really like him. I wasn't really into Blade Runner, but I really
you haven't watched it.
That's another discussion. I watched it, the movie's 2 hours and 45 minutes. I watched 2 hours and 30, so whatever. And I agree with you that he's a great director, but I think his style is way too distinct it would like stick out like a sore thumb. Like all of a sudden, everyone is like moving really slowly, looking at each other. There's this weird humming music in the background.
Yeah.
I don't think it would work.
Or
He's not a good director for Star Wars.
we could bring it full circle and let David Lynch direct it.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you aware that, Ryan, that he was supposed to direct Return of the Jedi?
Really?
Yeah, that was George Lucas' first choice was David Lynch. And there's an interview when he talks about it, and he's so like distraught, even thinking about it like 20 years later. He's like, oh, he brought me to this place where they only served salads, and he was talking about lightsabers and spaceships, and I had such a headache. He was not right for that movie, but it would be kind of fun, I suppose, in a theoretical way.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I don't know, like any director now. I have no idea.
What
first of all,
Nicholas Winding Refn?
That's the same thing. He is way too stylized, and he has much too of his own voice. That's
why I think Matthew Vaughn would be good. Like what he did with X-Men First Class as well. Like he managed to make something different with X-Men. We were used to like the Bryan Singer side of things.
Yeah.
He came in, he did something really different there, but yeah, it still felt like X-Men.
It fit.
Yeah.
I wasn't a massive fan of Kingsman 2, but Kingsman 1 was alright. But yeah, maybe they should get Guy Ritchie to do it. Imagine that everyone would be like talking in a Cockney accent. Ray will become like this like Cockney.
Imagine him doing the Solo movie and doing it like lock, stock, and barrel. That
would actually have been alright. That would have actually been alright, to be fair. Yeah.
Vinnie Jones.
He's doing Aladdin. He's doing Aladdin now, though, isn't he?
Oh, is he?
Oh
yeah,
no!
Aladdin remake.
I thought he was like out of a job after King Arthur.
Oh my god, that film's so bad.
I kind of liked it in a in a structural way. I thought it was a really interesting like deconstruction of the hero's journey. But yeah, as a movie, just watching it, it was a complete mess. But it was interesting to look at to deconstruct it. That was
the score for that film probably was my favorite score for last year. I'm a massive film score. Like
the score is really cool
and stuff. It's really cool. Daniel Pemberton, he's really good. He's doing some really good stuff.
Speaking of the Disney live action remakes, that Script Doctors episode will be the shortest. Don't.
Just don't. Stop making live action remakes. I mean, that could have been this episode as well. Just no more Star Wars movies. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Speaking of the new, I came up with a couple of things, or like one thing for my pitch.
For your new...
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine the characters of like Ben Solo, but Ben something else, because he's not gonna be Han Solo's kid. And Rey. And one of the like things in the movies is that they both independently from each other find one of these. It's called a holocron, by the way. I looked it up.
No, I kind of know what that is. Okay.
Yeah, and Rey finds a holocron with the Emperor, and Ben finds one with Luke Skywalker or young Obi-Wan.
What? Wait, what?
Like Ewan McGregor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, I was.
So you kind of flip the like good and bad. So Rey is taught in the Force by the Emperor, like the Force ghost of the Emperor, basically.
Okay. I sort of had a similar idea about them, and that could fit in my version of the movie or your version, where they kind of the Force Awakens isn't just in a character; it's just that it awakens in the galaxy again. Like when my version of the First Order, when they find this old Sith Lord, like he's in what do you call it, torpor or whatever, like in a slumber. When he awakens, it kind of kickstarts the Force. And it doesn't matter if it's a light side or the dark side. It's just the Force just awakens when he awakens, and anyone that is Force sensitive enough will feel that, and it will like
be drawn to it.
Yeah, be drawn to it, and that could be a fun way to do it. Like on opposite sides of the galaxies, this character felt this intoxicating feeling of like being empowered by something, and then on the other side of the galaxy, someone is just like almost like pushed down into the ground by this like opposing force that is just like spewing out of him. So that's the dark side, and then the light side is the other one, and them kind of being drawn to this, and that's how you would incorporate the Force into this new trilogy, if you will.
Yeah.
So, and they would both struggle with what's right and what's wrong. Should I pick the light side or the dark side? And they would kind of be torn between the two. So one of the interesting parts would be to see where they both where they turn. He was feeling the dark side, so maybe he feels like he should be on the light side so that he can feel better about himself. And the same thing with the other, like, well, I have all this power in me, but the dark side seems to be a lot more powerful, which it is technically. So it could be like
like both of them journeying for the other.
Yeah,
like the dark side, like looking into the light, and
exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And doing it on a smaller scale. It doesn't have to be like intergalactic war. It could just be about these characters.
Yeah, that's the next movie, the Intergalactic War.
Yeah, exactly. You build to the Intergalactic War.
What do you think of a prequel movie of like the kind of how like focusing on like the Sith and
Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah, kind of like how Palpatine focusing on like a young Palpatine, like learning to become a Sith with like Darth Plagueis, and how like that story, and kind of something along those lines, and like how it's like really kind of really old, and maybe kind of have maybe a young Yoda, maybe kind of like be quite interesting.
I've heard like rumors of them wanting to do like a Yoda standalone movie.
Yeah.
They need to do an Obi-Wan one first. So
yeah.
Get Ewan McGregor back to do a interim kind of like a Rogue One in the middle of there for him, kind of on Tatooine.
Yeah, and it can be like a self-contained, like smaller scale story about him fighting off like sand people at his farmstead.
Yeah,
like it doesn't have to be like this huge story about.
No, I think it could be very kind of like Logan-esque. I think.
Yeah,
I think what would be really cool is kind of like you see him really struggling with the torment of how Anakin became Darth Vader, and maybe like having like nightmares about how like when he left him to burn and all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And him just being kind of very kind of a tortured soul, having to kind of deal with himself. And then you could maybe get Liam Neeson back as kind of like a Qui-Gon Jinn Force ghost. Do you know what I mean? To try and kind of help Obi-Wan with his kind of like internal battles. And then whilst he's doing that, you could have something on the lines of how he is protecting Luke, about Luke kind of knowing him. Do you know what I mean? So like maybe like there are parts where Luke was in danger where he actually never knew he was in danger. So you could kind of have someone that kind of looked like Luke from afar and do the CGI.
Yeah, exactly. And Obi-Wan standing on like the mountains, looking down at the farmstead. And the twin sons.
Yeah, definitely. He's looking at Luke, looking at the twin sons.
Yeah. So it's that scene from A New Hope, but further away.
I feel like they tarnish it a little bit. I feel like they should.
Yeah, maybe.
But
looking down,
Palpatine knew that kind of knew that there was something going on there, and he had kind of like sent like a kind of like a Boba Fett, like assassin kind of thing there to try and he could feel that there's a Force presence going on there, so he sent someone over there to kind of like an investigator kind of thing, like a Star Wars style investigator, like a Boba Fett, and that's kind of like the big bad, and that's kind of who kind of Obi-Wan kind of has like it's a kind of more of like a kind of like a crime investigation thing where he has to try and work out who this person is that's trying to kill Luke and find him and stuff like that. And
you could use Boba Fett actually.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could.
A young Boba Fett. Yeah.
Yeah, and the young Boba Fett should know who Obi-Wan is. right?
Yeah, or at least have the
So
notion of
he
who
has
he
a
is.
personal grudge.
Yeah,
Like he killed his father. So
Django. Yeah.
yeah, there we have it.
Yeah.
Going from like making a new trilogy to doing a pitch for the Obi-Wan.
It was
Uh,
Mace Windu, wasn't it, that chopped off his head, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
Oh
that's right.
yeah,
But I mean, Obi-Wan was still involved in the fight.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, he should like hate any Jedi he sees. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
kind of
Jedi killed his father, so he's just got a grudge against Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. What was I gonna say? Like that is something. I don't think they're ever gonna do that. But if they really want to milk the Star Wars franchise, they should like do other movies like that. Maybe just like I don't know. Do you know who Red Letter Media is on YouTube?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, we should check that out. That's a great movie review channel. But they made a commentary track for Rogue One where they talk about like how you could just make different kinds of movies that aren't connected to the bigger plot of Star Wars. So you could have like a it could take place in the original trilogy, and it takes place on Hoth, and it's before Luke gets there. It's just a rebel base, and they're attacked by like a swarm of wampas, and it becomes like a horror movie or survival movie. They should make movies like that, like just have
Yeah.
fun with the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, imagine doing like that on Hoth. I thought you were gonna say that they were gonna do like a Parasite or something. Like it's the thing.
The thing in the Star Wars, yeah,
Yeah.
So, yeah, literally just turn the Star Wars universe to mimic like different films.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Instead of
Pulp Fiction Star Wars.
yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say a Reservoir Dogs in the.
Yeah. Instead of like ruining the main canon of Star Wars, just make some other movies instead. If you're gonna make Star Wars,
Yeah.
do that instead. I
Well,
would.
Rogue One kind of dabbled on that a little bit. It became a bit more of kind of like a war film, isn't it?
Yeah. That's why I kind of like that more, because it didn't feel like they weren't ruining Star Wars. They were just telling a different story.
That Vader scene at the end of Rogue One, though, is probably one of the best things I've ever seen in Star Wars.
Yeah. I agree. Totally agree.
Well, it's cool.
Everyone, like, you never really get to see why everyone's so scared of Darth Vader in the original trilogy, and that's
No,
really
that's true.
shown. Just like what's great about it is like he's like the only one that can do that there at that time. Do you know what I mean? Like other than Palpatine, but like to the whole universe, like he is the only person that has this ability. Like he's kind of like this living god. And like in that scene, it really makes out. It's just like, oh my god, this guy, he's here and he's going to destroy everyone.
Yeah, and you kind of understand in a way why like the rebels are so scared of him in the original, because those who survived,
they saw that happen.
yeah, and tell the story. Yeah, that scene is so awesome.
Yeah.
I don't care that it's fan service. That's a case of good fan service, in my opinion.
It's fine. I kind of like the scene. I'm not ecstatic about it, but I do like the scene.
Yeah.
Well,
we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I don't really. Yeah, like I never really had like a complete trilogy in mind. I just had some changes I would like to do about The Last Jedi, and I had my version of The Force Awakens. So, do you any of you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I thought we've had a good discussion, guys. I think we got a lot of stuff out, and it's been a pleasure, really. Thanks for kind of having me on the show.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for appearing on the show. It's always fun to reach out like that.
Twitter's brilliant. I love Twitter. So use
that's
Twitter
why I like Twitter
more often. Stay on that. I thought I've got a lot of different kind of like pages on social media, which essentially I have just abandoned because it's like Twitter's just it's the best place to be. You get really good, passionate people with good opinions, and it's a good platform of what we do here to kind of get that across, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we could just wrap it up. So yeah, this was a kind of a different episode, but the format isn't really like set in stone. So
yeah, let's just agree that we didn't save the patient this time.
No,
save the patient. What?
Yeah, well, we're script doctors, so I'm not sure we were able to save Star Wars, but did we really wanna? I don't know. For me, I think Star Wars is kind of lost. I don't have any faith in Star Wars anymore.
No, nor do I, sadly.
Yeah, and I don't
I
think...
do.
Yeah, I know. Well, you have to have one hopeful person, I suppose.
Yeah.
But Martin, you're still there with the defibrillator. Trying
Yeah,
to,
exactly.
Let go, he's dead.
Yeah, no.
but no, it's a lot of fun to talk about Star Wars with you, and in future episodes, if you ever want to come on, it just
But if you ever have a conversation around Christopher Nolan and The Dark Knight, then you can invite me on, because I love Christopher Nolan, and The Dark Knight for me is the best film that's ever made.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
You do anything around Batman? If you ever do anything around Batman, then because that's a whole different conversation. We'll get into that if you ever do one of those.
Oh, sure, yeah,
definitely.
Cool.
But for now, check out Ryan's blog, was Life of Films.
Yep.
Give that a check. You have a podcast as well, right? On there?
No. So I have a friend who's from the States called the Backseat Directors, and I do guest appearances on his blog, on his podcast quite a bit. And we have a bit of a partnership going on there. So he kind of looks after the podcasting side of things. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you can always you can check out my YouTube channel. I do a lot of movie reviews, and we do a live stream almost every week. And for more episodes of the Script Doctors in the future. And Martin, well, he's usually on my channel. I don't know if you have any. You haven't started a YouTube channel or anything?
No.
You have anything you want to plug? We don't usually do that.
Not really.
Plug.
No, not really.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ryan, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good one, people.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.